Good afternoon and welcome to the Senate Labor Committee. We have several bills. One will be for passage and the rest will be held for further study. And the first bill that we're going to be hearing today is Senate Bill 808 by Senator Lombardi, an act relating to labor and labor relations, employment security benefits, Rhode Island Back to Work Incentive Program. Senator Lombardi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. This is a bill that I introduced at the request of many dozens, if not hundreds, of business owners in the state of Rhode Island who are all facing a very difficult time these days finding employees to fill predominantly entry-level positions which are required to run their operations. Perhaps most notably in the restaurant, hotel, hospitality industry, while these businesses have suffered throughout the pandemic, now that the economy is opening up, we find that they have had difficulty finding wait staff, bus staff, cooks, cooks, and cleaning people in the kitchen, that sort of thing. But it goes beyond just the restaurant industry and into the industries such as hotels, delicatessens, convenience outlets. We see these large, beautiful new gas station convenience stores. I've seen at least 2 have to close as a result of not having employees available. And they think, and I tend to agree with them, that the predominant problem is a result of the incentives for people who are on unemployment and receiving money, and it's become a feeling that these folks are staying at home because they're making more money staying at home collecting unemployment rather than being out there in the workforce. So what this bill purports to do is to create what we would like to call a Rhode Island Back to Work Incentive Program, whereby it earmarks anyone who's collecting unemployment benefits the right to return to work, and when they return to work, to receive an incentive for doing so of up to $150 more per week for a 40-hour work week. And the bill goes into further details incentivizing the persistence in staying there. And basically, it is not a permanent situation. It's a situation that will stay into effect for a collective period of about 13 weeks. I know that the full endorsement of many, many, many businesses, not only in my constituency, but all in all of your areas there. It's an opportunity to try and fill these positions so that these folks can get back to full staffing and to be able to work at 100% capacity. Just by way of statistics, and I'm not going to bore you because I know there's a lot of folks coming in to speak on this bill, just by 2018, there's nearly 3,000 restaurants in the state of Rhode Island, and that encompasses well over 55,000 jobs, or 11% of our employment in the state of Rhode Island. $2.7 billion in sales is reported just from the National Restaurant Association. Now that this hospitality segment has been hit so hard, it's important for us to try and fast track with this legislation so that they can bounce back from what they've had. This bill is kind of a little bit thinking outside the box, and I'd like to think it was my brainchild. It was not. The concept was brought to me by this collaboration of business owners. They drafted the language, and I got behind the theme associated with this. I think it's an important bill to try and balance the equities during these times, and I'm certainly open for any questions that any of the committee may have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Lombardi. Does the committee have any questions? Okay, prior to going to the phone calls, I was...
Senator Chacon?
Yes,
Senator
Lombardi.
Wouldn't it be prudent to take a roll call on attendance?
I was going to do that right now.
Thank you.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Chacon?
Yes, here.
Senator Lombardi,
Yes. Here, I'm sorry.
Senator Burke,
Senator Burke asked to be excused. He has a medical appointment.
Senator De La Cruz,
Here.
Senator Golden,
Here.
Senator Lombardo,
Here.
Senator Picard,
Here.
and Senator Sosnowski. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, once again, does the committee have any questions for Senator Lombardi? If not, we will go to the phone calls. All set. Good afternoon, Mr. Levesque. Welcome to the Senate Labor Committee. And we're ready
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We're ready for your testimony.
Okay, my name is David Levesque. I'm the owner of Brude Awakenings Coffee House. We've been in business for about 24 years. Prior to the pandemic, we employed about 120 employees. We are now down to about 68 employees currently. We lost one location in the town of South Kingstown due to the pandemic, and currently our Providence store is now currently closed as well. Both the other 5 remaining stores that we have between Johnson, Cranston, and Warwick all have reduced hours, and this is all due to the staffing shortage that we're currently experiencing now. We're down several $1 million in annual sales, and it's affecting us for how we can run our company. So this is why we put together this bill 6218 to help support Rhode Island businesses to get people back to work. And I really strongly urge you guys to put this thing through. I can tell you right now, the industry is devastated with employee issues. Currently, the Rhode Island market for restaurants could probably employ close to 10,000 workers immediately. You hear it on every news story, every radio show, talk show that calls in, that this is a major problem. The stories that I'm hearing are emotional, and people are at the point of a breaking point in many of these locations and restaurants. With us entering the time where we have the most amount of business coming in this tourist season, it is crucial that something happen immediately. It should have already taken place. It's upsetting that it hasn't. But the bill that we put together, yes, it will cost $39 million to do, but that's only if we put people back to work. And if we put people back to work for that number of 10,000 people, which we know we can do, it will generate at least $59 million in revenue if you paid everybody minimum wage, which that's not going to happen. Between the minimum wage pay or the $59 million pay and the sales tax that would be generated, this program of $39 million would be positive within 9 months that it not only pay itself back, but it would be $2.6 million positive within 9 months. At the same time, after 14 weeks, if we put 10,000 people back to work with this program, you'll have 10,000 people less on unemployment, which will save you $2.6 million a week going back into the fund to replenish what is now a depleted fund under the unemployment fund. It's extremely crucial that you guys pass this right away and stand up for it. I will tell you today, I had conversations this morning with the governor and with Matt Weldon from DLT. And my last conversation with Matt Weldon from DLT is maybe we can make a compromise on this bill, and I'm going to share it with you guys. One, we limit it to full-time people only, so it doesn't interfere with the other bills, 6249. Two, that we cap it at $39 million, so the first 10,000 people that sign up will come back to work right away. I'm hoping that that can happen. The last conversation I had with Matt Weldon is that he's going to have a talk with the governor. If we can do that and we get their support on that, you can not only pass that other bill, 6249, you can also pass this bill. But let me make it clear that Bill 6249, although may put a few people back to work, it is not going to help the Rhode Island market in the restaurant industry or other workers. The bill does not encourage people to go back to work. It's not going to be the save all. We really need to get either both bills passed or this bill. The best case scenario would be to lift all restriction, have DOT be able to enforce all rules, regulations immediately, but that's not going to happen. So it's either both bills or at least Bill 6128 if you really seriously want to make a change and save this restaurant industry. And it doesn't matter whether it's Newport, Galilee, or all the other areas, we need to have the people off unemployment back to work. And that's it. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Are there any questions for the committee members? No, it looks like there are none. We thank you for your testimony and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, the next bill that we are going to take up is Senate Bill 858 by Senator Goodwin. It's an act relating to labor and labor relations, employment security, general provisions. I thought we had Senator Goodwin here. No. I'll give you a brief explanation, and then I believe we have somebody calling in on it. This act would increase the total amount of earnings a partial unemployment claimant can receive before complete disqualification for unemployment benefits, and would increase the disregarded amount of earnings when calculating a weekly benefit rate. The provisions of this act will expire on June 30th, 2022. This act would take effect upon passage. And I believe we have the Director of DLT, Matt Weldon, who's ready to testify. Good afternoon, Director Weldon.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee.
We are ready for your testimony on Senate Bill 858.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank you for entertaining the bill, and I want to thank Whip Goodwin for putting it in. You know, we've heard, the administration and DLT have heard loud and clear from the employer community that there is a significant challenge right now trying to fill job vacancies. One of the arguments has been that the federal government has set the benefit levels for unemployment so high that it's keeping people from going back to work. And I've said before, I don't know, maybe that's the reason, maybe it's not. But if it is, then why wouldn't we take a look at some of the rules on unemployment and try to do something to incentivize people to return? People have been connected to unemployment for the last year during a pandemic, a once-in-a-century event that really shocked us all and scared us. And it's been an incredible challenge for them and their families. And quite frankly, I think people are concerned about working a little bit, maybe not having hours going forward, getting disconnected from unemployment again, and then trying to get back on. And so one of the things that we looked at, and with Goodwin, we took a look at how much money someone can make right now on unemployment and still, working part-time and still stay connected to the unemployment system. I think that it's a low limit. Right now, under the law, you're able to make up to whatever your weekly payment is from DLT. So if your weekly payment is $200 from unemployment, remember that's only about half of what you earned before you filed. If it's $200 and you earn $199 working part-time, you can get a $1 payment or a little bit more, and you'll get whatever the federal government is giving as a bonus. Right now, that's $300. If you earned $1 more, you earn $200. Current law says you get nothing from unemployment. And when you don't get an unemployment payment, you also cannot get the federal bonus payment. So what we would like to do with this bill is raise that limit, allow people to earn up to 150% of their benefit rate, which would represent about 75% of what they earned before they filed. That would keep that. I want you to think of it like two doors in a row. The first door is the first qualifier. If they make up to 150% of their benefit rate, they open the door and they can now get some kind of a payment, which means they'll get the federal incentive too. In addition to that, current law says that if you work part-time and you collect a partial unemployment payment, you can get 20% of your weekly benefit amount put aside like it never happened. No harm, no foul. what that means for that person that earns $200 is the first $40 they earn every week, we don't touch it. After the $40, we start deducting dollar for dollar from your benefit. I think another part of this equation should be to allow people to keep half of their weekly benefit amount. So for that $200 weekly benefit person, they could keep $100 before we touch their income. This should incentivize people to go back to work and keep them connected to the unemployment system if they make less than 150% of their rate, which will provide the safety net that their family needs and allow people to start filling some shifts throughout the state. It will allow them to earn more money, to keep more of what they earn, and stay connected to unemployment. It is not proposed as the cure-all for the challenges that people are facing. It's one part. The other part, Chairman, I've spoken about before. Very soon, in the next few weeks, DLT will reinstate the requirement that people look for suitable work. That has been put aside during the pandemic because, obviously, at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of places were closed. Jobs just weren't available. It wouldn't make sense to make people look. Two, there were a lot of health concerns. We're at a much better place now than we have been in the last year as far as health and safety goes in the workplace. Obviously, every case is different. Some people are going to have qualifying reasons related to COVID that they cannot work right now, and that's okay per the federal government. But everyone else is going to have to start looking for work again. It's not punitive. If we want to get people reconnected to the economy, because right now, on September 4th, all the federal programs end. And if they're not extended, there's going to be a lot of people that don't qualify for unemployment anymore. Sorry to take up so much time. I just wanted to explain how the bill works. I'll be very happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions for Matt Weldon? Senator Golden.
Thank you. Oh, it's echoey. Is that echoey?
Yep,
Okay.
you're all set.
Okay. My question is, this is unrelated to their hourly wage, correct? So that they could be making more per hour. It's not related to how many hours they're working, as long as if they're not working full time and they're earning more per hour, but are working less hours, as long as it's less than 150% of what they had when they applied for UI. That still covers them, correct?
That's right. They would only be able to earn up to 150%. It doesn't matter what the hourly rate is. I mean, obviously, the hourly rate will govern how many hours someone can work and stay connected to unemployment. We hope that when people get back into the workplace, that they'll go work full time, and make more money working. And under our plan, everyone that works will make more money than if they don't work. And that's part of what we're going to discuss with people, hopefully, if this passes.
And may I ask a second question?
Yes, Senator Golden.
Yes.
Okay. And as you know, Matt, one of the things that really worries me is as we continue to not have a stable childcare system, and we're heading into a summer where camps are still going to be limited, and there's concerns about the capacity to actually have a care system in place. Given that is not back up to the level it was prior to the pandemic, and probably won't be for some time, can you talk about how you think this might affect people who are out of the workforce because of their child or elder caregiving needs?
Sure. Unemployment has always been a program for people that were attached to the labor market, became detached due to no fault of their own. That will not be any different going forward. However, now, because of the pandemic and the federal programs that came into place, we have a list of criteria that the federal government has put out that are considered acceptable reasons for not being available for work for a COVID-related reason. And if one of those reasons is a child care center no longer exists, or they don't have capacity because of restrictions or something like that, then of course that may be a good cause reason for someone not to look for work. What we're saying is when people have to look for work again, they don't have to submit anything to DLT. We're not going to hold their benefits waiting for them to send in a list of the places they went. They should maintain their own list. And if someone can't look and the reason is because they have a related reason, a COVID reason, when they certify for a payment every week, one of the questions will be, do you meet one of these criteria? And if they check off that box, they'll be okay. If we ask them for some kind of proof, they'll have to just provide to us that the child care situation they had is impacted by COVID, and then we'll take a look at that information. Every claim is going to be different, Senator. So there's not a blanket policy that it's okay for everyone to have child care issues, because generally people need to be available for work. It has to be COVID related. And if it is, then we can help them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other committee members that have a question? No? Thank you for your testimony, Director.
Thank you, Chairman.
There are two people that were signed up to testify. That was Sarah Bratko from the Hospitality Institute Association in favor, but we've tried to contact her and she's not answering the phone. And the next one is Bill Kittless, and it appears that it's the wrong number he put down, and he's from Angelo's Pizza Palace, and he was not in favor. So with that, that concludes the testimony on Senate Bill 858. Is a motion in order for passage. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Senator Lombardi. Is there a second?
Second.
Senator Lombardo. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Chairman Chacon,
Yes.
Senator Lombardi,
Yes.
Senator Burke, Senator De La Cruz, Senator Golden,
Yes.
Senator Lombardo,
Yes.
Senator De La Cruz,
No.
Senator Picard,
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski. It passes.
How many? 5 in favor, 1 against, and the bill is passed. Okay, we will go back to the top of the agenda, which is Senate Bill 837 by Senator Pearson, and it's an act relating to labor and labor relations, temporary disability contributions. I do not see Senator Pearson on the screen. And the explanation is this act would decrease an employee's obligation for contribution from wages and require the employer to contribute 1/2 of the amount of an employee's contribution. This act would take effect January 1st, 2022. And we have several people signed up to testify. First one is Rachel Flum from the Rhode Island Economic Progress Institute.
Chair, she's texting me that the call didn't go through. Can the clerk call again?
I want to try it again. Yes. Good afternoon, Rachel, and welcome to Senate Labor. Oh. Ready? Good afternoon, Rachel,
Yes.
and welcome to Senate Labor.
Good afternoon. I'm here now, yes.
Okay, good. We're here for your testimony on Senate Bill 837.
Great. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Rachel Flum. I'm the Strategy Director and Senior Policy Analyst at the Economic Progress Institute. And I want to thank Senator Pearson for introducing this bill. We were here before you last week with Senator Golden's bill around improving TCI. And this bill, which Senator Pearson has put in, is a very nice complement to that proposal. But this proposal focuses on how the TDI and TCI fund is funded and seeks to instill some equity into that structure. As you all know, TDI and TCI are entirely funded by workers through a single payroll deduction, which is currently set at about 1.3% of a worker's wages. And that fluctuates depending on how many workers are using the program and how much revenue is coming into the program. This legislation would split the cost of the funding for TDI and TCI evenly between the workers and their employers. And we believe that requiring employers to contribute to the TDI-TC fund, which helps both employers and their employees, is a vital update that will help reduce the financial burden on workers who solely support the fund now. So we urge you to pass this bill for 3 reasons. The first is to improve economic justice, especially for workers with low wages. As we talked about with you last week, lower wage workers especially struggle to pay into the program and then often don't use, especially TCI. Often they have to use TDI if they're out of work because they've been injured. But we know that too many folks are paying in and then not using the program. Requiring employers to pay half of the amount that's required will mean that all workers will see their contribution cut in half. So instead of paying the full 1.3, they would pay about 0.65% of taxes on their wages, and then the employer would be required to pay the other half. We think this would also help with the fund sustainability in an ongoing way. I know DLT has been before the General Assembly talking about the unemployment fund and the concern about whether it is sustainable in the long term. My understanding is that the TDI-TCI fund is healthy right now, but if we're thinking about what happens when federal programs go away and more people may have to come on to TDI or TCI if there's another spike in COVID cases in the fall, we know that the TDI-TCI program was a huge support for Rhode Islanders in the spring of last year because they were able to get those benefits before DLT was able to roll out the federal UI program. So requiring both employers and employees to pay in will help ensure the funding structure is reliable, adequate, and then fair. And then lastly, if you look at the other states in the nation who have passed paid family and medical leave since we did, there are 10 of them if you include DC, and a full 6 of them do require employers to contribute into the fund. So this is not out of the norm of what folks are doing. That people are recognizing that both employers and employees benefit from these programs, and they should share the cost of supporting it. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee members? Being none, once again, thank you, Rachel, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
And before I take the next call, I see Senator Sosnowski is with us, and we just passed the bill prior to that. It was Senate Bill 858 by Senator Goodwin. How would you like to be recorded?
I'd like to be marked in the affirmative, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You will be.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, just waiting for our next person to pick up the phone. Next we have Georgia Hollister-Eisman from the Working Families Party testifying in favor. Good afternoon, Georgia.
Good afternoon. I'll be very brief since Rachel Flum made many of the points that I was going to. I just want to say thanks, Senator Pearson, for introducing this bill. It is a really important complement to some of the expansions and benefits we were talking about last week with Senator Golden's bill, and I think really important for both sustainability and economic justice. many other states are moving towards having employers and employees pay into this fund. It benefits both of them, and it lowers the burden on the lowest income workers and creates a fund that's more sustainable and therefore more accessible to everyone. I urge you to pass this bill. It's a smart and thoughtful one, and an important piece of the puzzle here.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from committee members? I believe not. Once again, Georgia, thank you and have a good evening.
You too.
Next, we have Leanne Barrett from Rhode Island Kids Count. Good afternoon, Leanne.
Good afternoon, Chairman. As you just said, my name is Leanne Barrett, and I am at Rhode Island Kids Count, and I'm here to testify in strong support of Senate Bill 837, Senator Pearson's bill, which improves the financial strength of the TDI and TCI program, which are really an essential program for families with new babies and young children and pregnant people. For decades, the TDI program has really been an essential support for pregnant workers who develop disabling complications and enables them to follow doctor's orders to take time off from work. With partial wage replacement, we know that if you don't provide partial wage replacement, that a lot of people can't take that time off that they are supposed to, and it impacts birth outcomes. In fact, I was a beneficiary of this program myself with my child, who is now 17 years old, and I had to go out on bed rest at 32 weeks pregnant because I was showing signs of preterm labor. So it was an essential support for me, and it's essential support for lots of women. So that is really important. The other thing that TDI does for people who don't have complications, just regular healthy births, is it provides 6 to 8 weeks of time off from work with wage replacement to recover from childbirth, which is a significant injury that people need to recover from at home, and at the same time take care of a newborn baby, establish breastfeeding, etc. Then in 2013, we started the TCI program, and Rhode Island was really a leader nationally, and we really thank Senator Golden, the General Assembly overall, in really taking that big step and being the third state to have a paid family leave program that was available to workers of both genders, so that dads could take leave, and people who do not give birth can take leave, including people who become parents through adoption or foster care, or, families with two moms, that kind of thing. So we know paid family leave is really important in addressing maternal and child health disparities. It reduces infant mortality rates. It improves breastfeeding rates and duration. It increases the likelihood that infants receive preventive medical care and immunizations. It also reduces maternal depression and child maltreatment. So it's fabulous that we have a strong program. As Rachel mentioned, there are 10 states if you include D.C. However, Rhode Island is in the minority now as one of only 3 states that does not require that employers contribute to the insurance program. So this bill, we urge passage because it would continue our leadership role in the United States by modernizing the financing of our TDI and TCI programs, which would improve the economic security of workers and families who really struggle with day-to-day low wages and making ends meet, and having less money withheld from their paycheck would definitely help them. So I, in my written testimony, attached a chart which shows you the number of children, or actually the number of approved claims. It's not necessarily children, but number of approved claims by the adult for childbirth and pregnancy complications, and for the temporary caregiver insurance. So we can see that it really benefits thousands of constituents across the state, and people in every city and town, moms, dads, people of all ages really, but my data focuses on people who have recently had children, and we really just want to encourage you to strongly consider passing this bill to increase the take-home pay by sharing contributions to the TDI and TCA program across employers and the worker. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Leanne. Are there any questions from committee members? Being none, thank you for your testimony and have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
For the committee members, I'm going to bundle all the bills we're holding until the end and take a vote at the end, so there's no questions. Next, we have Senate Bill 272 by Senator Golden, an act relating to labor and labor relations, fair employment practices. Senator Golden.
Thank you, Chair. There's testimony in your packet from ACLU on this bill, which provides more robust detail. But this bill, as you might recall from all of our sexual harassment trainings we've had in the Senate for the past few years, we often have this discussion about a ruling called in the Mancini case, which made it the Human Rights Commission not be able to hold people personally accountable for sexual harassment claims. And as well, while they believe they have oversight over us as a legislative body, should somebody file a sexual harassment or discrimination claim, that it could be in front of the Human Rights Commission. But what this bill would do is make it explicit that we are covered by the Human Rights Commission as legislators and those existing in our connected to us as legislators, so that somebody could seek remedy in that way. It also changes and in doing so changes the definition of employee as well, to make sure it covers people who are working in your home as well. And I think there's another bill later on that touches on that as well. But it's certainly, we want to make sure that everybody who is working for anybody can file a claim to the Human Rights Commission.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from committee members? Being none, we'll go to our first person that called in. And once again, it's Georgia Hollis-Eisman from Rhode Island Working Families. Once again, good evening, Georgia.
Thank you, and thanks for having me again. I'll speak briefly on this bill as well. I think this is some very important updates to our laws around sexual harassment to make it more possible for folks to hold the people responsible accountable, and also to include some very important groups of workers, of interns, et cetera, who've been left out, but who very much experience this kind of harassment and need a way to be able to remedy that going forward. So this is a good bill. I hope you guys will move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from committee members? Once again, I believe you have not signed up for anything else. Thank you and have a good evening.
That's it for me for the evening. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Next, we have Casey Brodie from the Rhode Island Commission on Human Rights. Good afternoon and welcome to the Senate Labor Committee.
Hi, good evening. This is Casey Brodie. I am an attorney with the Rhode Island Commission for Human Rights. Thank you for having me, Mr. Chairman, Senators, and Senator Golden. I appreciate that. As you know, and as Senator Golden pointed out, the Commission for Human Rights enforces the Rhode Island Fair Employment Practices Act, and we do support this bill, which amends the Rhode Island General Law 2857, and specifically paragraph 6. We support this bill because intent to authorize the liability for an individual employee who engages in an unfair employment practice in an employment setting. So as you know, and as Senator Golden pointed out, the court in Mancini made clear that its decision was based squarely on principles of statutory construction, and this bill...
I think we're losing her. Casey, you still there?
Hello? Yes.
We lost your sound for a while.
Okay, so I'm not sure how much you... my name is Casey Brodie. I'm an attorney for the Rhode Island Commission for Human Rights.
Yeah, we had it up until you started the Mancini case.
I'm sorry?
I said, we had your testimony up until the point where you began explaining the Mancini case, and then it went dead.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. So the court in Mancini made it clear that its decision was based squarely on the principles of statutory construction. So this bill is very important because it makes it unambiguous as to personal or individual employee liability. So the commission is in full support, and I'm here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members from the committee that have any questions? Senator Golden?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to thank the commission so much. This is actually comes from the language of this bill comes from them and comes from them for not only supporting it but making it clear why this is so problematic for our state and that we need to absolutely clarify this in statutory language in order to close that interpretation in the courts, but also at the same time make sure that it applies to all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Golden. Are there any other questions? Once again, thank you for your testimony, Casey, and have a good evening.
Thank you, you too. Thank you.
Next, who we had was Nicole O'Loughlin from the Rhode Island SEIU State Council in favor, but there was no answer on her phone, so we'll move to Steve Brown from the ACLU of Rhode Island. Good afternoon, Steve. Welcome to the Senate Labor Committee.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Stephen Brown from the ACLU of Rhode Island, here to express our strong support for S-272. I think Senator Golden and the other speakers you've heard have explained why this is an important bill and all the provisions in it. The only point I would emphasize is that this bill is simply trying to restore what had been the law for many years as it had been interpreted by the Human Rights Commission and by lower courts, which was ensuring that individuals were in fact liable if they engaged in discrimination in the workplace. So by overturning the Mancini decision, what this bill is doing is really reinstating a long-time status quo of preventing discrimination in the workplace, and we hope that the committee will look favorably on it and put this back in place as it had been for so many years. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from committee members? It appears not. Once again, thank you for your testimony, Steve, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Next testifying is David Salvador from the Rhode Island Association of Realtors. Good afternoon, David, and welcome to the Senate Labor Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is David Salvatore. I am the Government Affairs Director for the Rhode Island Association of Realtors, representing 6,000 members, most of them being Rhode Islanders. I want to begin by commending the sponsor of Senate Bill 272. RIAR obviously supports any efforts to mitigate and eliminate sexual harassment in the workplace, so we certainly commend Senator Golden for her efforts on that front. My comments are related to Senate Bill 272 and Senate Bill 437. As many of you know, Rhode Islanders are attracted to the real estate sales industry because of their ability to be classified as an independent contractor and the industry's ability to empower entrepreneurship, maximizing workplace flexibility, but probably most importantly, promoting autonomy within an industry that's responsible for 1/5 of the state's gross state product. RIAR has always supported the protection of and efforts to further secure the right of real estate sales persons to work as independent contractors and for brokers to choose to classify real estate salespeople as independent contractors. But, Mr. Chairman, we are concerned that Senate Bill 272 and Senate Bill 437 could create some confusion in the industry and ambiguity in state law. As many of you know, real estate salespersons are exempt from the state's definition of employee and are classified as independent contractors. And I referenced two state statutes that provide for that exemption. And over the years, Rhode Island has followed the Federal Department of Labor guidance and regulations around classifying real estate salespeople as independent contractors. And realtors across our state would obviously support this classification locally, and we would strongly oppose any attempt to remove these exemptions from Rhode Island general law. So we encourage the committee to also recognize and support the uniqueness of our industry by mitigating any risks to worker misclassification by amending the legislation before you this evening and cross-referencing the laws that are included in my written testimony. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Are there any questions from any committee members? It appears not. Once again, thank you for your testimony and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, next we have Senate Bill 431, an act relating to holidays and days of special observance, holiday and Sunday work by Senator Quesada. I don't see Senator Quesada on. Just checking again. No. This act would, for purposes of overtime pay on Sundays and holidays, remove health care and maintenance workers from the definition of employees not entitled to overtime pay, thereby enabling them to collect overtime pay. I believe there's no one signed up for this bill, so we will move on to the next bill, which is Senate Bill 437, once again by Senator Quesada, and this is an act relating to labor and labor relations, minimum wages. For the purposes wages, workers' compensation, temporary disability, unemployment benefits, this act creates a new definition for employees. Senator Quesada does not appear to be with us this evening, and there is no one here signed up to testify on Senate Bill 437, so we'll take a vote when we go through the remainder of the agenda. Next to last, we have Senate Bill 550.
I just texted her. I thought that Senator, well,
Yeah.
you had to.
We're waiting for, it's by Senator Kalman. She is going to testify on it. I believe, yes, we have her right now. Good afternoon, Senator. How are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me over this evening, and sorry to be a minute or two late. I was just zooming out of one and zooming into the other. So the Whistleblower Protection Act expansion is to extend protections to whistleblowers. So in Rhode Island, a worker who engages in a whistleblowing activity, so this could be anything from reporting wage theft to sexual harassment, safety violations, etc., is protected from certain forms of retaliation from their employer under existing law. But the law as it's currently written doesn't protect job applicants who become victims to or witnesses to this crime, crime during a job interview. So this bill would expand protection to job applicants. And it also doesn't address certain prevalent forms of retaliation among employers. Chief among these is reporting undocumented workers to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. So the bill essentially makes 4 changes to the current Whistleblower Protections Act. So the first thing it does is extend protection to job applicants and prospective employees, not just current employees. Second, it disallows employers from reporting or threatening an employee with Immigration Enforcement agencies as direct retaliation. It increases damages, and then it requires the posting of this law in the workplace in each language that is known to be spoken by employees in a given company. And I will say that there was a case in Massachusetts pretty recently where, excuse me, I'm trying to find the details, but where an undocumented worker was injured on the job. There was an OSHA investigation, and during the course of the investigation, the employer reported that person to ICE. And so this is the kind of situation that we're trying to avoid right here, using immigration status particularly as a way to retaliate and extending some other crucial protections. So thank you so much for having me. I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from committee members? It appears not, so we will go to the phones, and our first person testifying is Enrique Sanchez, who is in opposition. Good evening.
Hello.
Oh, good afternoon, Enrique. We're ready
Hey,
for
how
your
you doing,
testimony.
sir?
Good. We're ready for your testimony.
Great. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. My name is Enrique Sanchez. I'm here representing the BLM Back and DSA, Providence Democratic Socialists of America. I am here in full support of Senate Bill 550, which would prohibit employers from reporting or acting upon the legal status of an undocumented worker or person across the state. I'm here to give a testimony in accordance to my personal experience and the environments that I surround myself with. I'm a Mexican American. I socialize and I work with a lot of undocumented people, folks from Guatemala, folks from Dominican Republic, folks from other parts of across the globe who speak other languages and are here undocumented, but want to have the opportunity to work. So, yes, I mean, I would say across the state we have a lot of people who are racist, not just in the rural communities, but also here in Providence and the bigger cities, Woonsocket, Newport, Westerly. Across the state, we have people who think it's okay to, report the legal status of a worker, an undocumented worker. We need to eradicate that those type of actions now. We cannot pick on our most marginalized or working people in the state. A lot of our undocumented community works in places like restaurants and factories and construction jobs and landscaping, type of work that our state depends on. The labor of our most vulnerable, our most marginalized, our undocumented community decides to work in these jobs because of legal status or proper documentation. So we need to, here within our own grasp of power at the General Assembly, do the right thing and look after our workers, regardless of their legal status, whether they're here undocumented or they're not. That's it for now, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any committee members have any questions? It appears not. Thank you again, and have a good evening. Next, we have Nathan Levin Aspinston testifying on Senate Bill 550. Good afternoon. Good evening, Nathan.
Good afternoon.
We're ready for your testimony.
Thank you. I'm calling in to testify tonight in favor of Bill 550 for whistleblower protections in the state of Rhode Island. I've personally known close friends who have, upon coming forward with information pertinent to the conducting of business in the place where they worked, keeping details vague for their protection, were fired for it. And we are the worst for that as a state, as a place to conduct business, as a place to teach, as a place to conduct government affairs. We need whistleblower protections in order for people who see things that they know are not right to be empowered to point those things out, and for, as a community, us to be able to correct them and to have a better working environment for everyone involved in that way, without those people fearing economic reprisal, something that is on everyone's mind these days, as the economy is so precarious for so many people, certainly so many people who I know. So I hope you will be voting in favor of this bill tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from our committee members? Being none, thank you and have a good evening. Next is David Valise from Rhode Island Interfaith Coalition to Reduce Poverty. Good evening, David.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Thank you very much, Chairperson and committee members, for having me. My name is David Valise. I am the director and lead organizer of the Rhode Island Interfaith Coalition to Reduce Poverty. I'm here tonight to support this legislation as a coalition of different faith leaders and advocates who have come together to fight poverty and inequality. From a faith perspective, we are united in the belief that we must protect and support our immigrant communities, and that we have a moral imperative to help support those in need regardless of nationality. Through our sacred texts, we are instructed to support the traveler, the stranger, the foreigner. I'll just give you two quotes. Cursed is anyone who withholds justice from the foreigner, and another one stating, the foreigner who resides with you shall be to you as a citizen among you. You shall love the foreigner as yourself. We see that the immigrant community is a strong and important part of Rhode Island, a community that has countless contributions to the state. Thinking about the devastation that we have seen this last year, we are reminded that many immigrant workers are in fact crucial frontline workers that kept our state running and the people fed. We must provide protections to all Rhode Islanders and all Rhode Island workers who are reporting unsafe and unfair work conditions, regardless of their immigration status. Not only should we do this because it is the right and moral thing to do, but because not allowing workers to report negative conditions can lead to more workers being in danger. We must fight against all injustices, not only those that impact us directly. This legislation, again, protects workers, but it also protects all workers, not just the ones that are reporting it. In closing, I will say that I want to live in a Rhode Island and in a society that we care about our neighbors and protect all of the people who live here. I believe this as an advocate, but also someone who grew up undocumented and who was seeking the American dream and a better life for my family. I thank you all for your time. I thank you to Senator Coleman for introducing this legislation, and thank you all for protecting Rhode Island workers.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from our committee members? It appears not. Have a good evening, David. Next, we have Benjamin Brashad from Carpenters Local Union 330. Good evening, Benjamin. Welcome to Senate Labor.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Ben Brashad. I represent Carpenters Local Union 330. I'm calling today to support the passage of this bill, which would do those four things that Senator Coleman described. Both the federal and the Rhode Island Whistleblower Protection Act were written to protect workers who report crimes that their employer commits from direct retaliation. And while it's easy and most people understand that firing or demoting an employee for reporting a crime on the job site constitutes retaliation, there are other forms of retaliation that are more insidious and that we've seen increasingly over the years, especially over the last 4 or 5 years. And that's reporting the whistleblower to an immigration law enforcement agency such as ICE, and those people aren't currently protected by the Whistleblower Protection Act. This wasn't excluded from the law because it doesn't happen. It's happened so much across New England that it's created a fear amongst immigrant workers, and these are workers with or without documentation, and they're afraid that reporting crimes committed against themselves or their coworkers will end up getting tangled up in an immigration investigation. And I want to emphasize that we have heard directly from the workers that the fear of this kind of retaliation is out there for even people who are working here fully documented, because employers threaten Latino or even just Latino, somebody that the employer guesses is Latino, with this type of retaliation. The big problem with this is that it creates uncooperative witnesses, which makes it really difficult for agencies like the Department of Labor or the Attorney General, who has written a letter in support of this bill for you tonight, to properly investigate and charge these cases of wage theft and tax fraud and sexual harassment and other forms of exploitation. We believe the passage of this bill is an important step in making all Rhode Island workers feel safer to report crimes that occur in their workplace, which not only is important for those workers who are victims of crimes or witnesses of crimes, but it benefits Rhode Island consumers as a whole. I mean, most of us know the story of the beginning of the Whistleblower Protection Act, the factory, where unsafe things were happening. And so enhanced whistleblower protection helps Rhode Island consumers, our workforce, and the employers that do the right thing. The accompanying House bill has been heard in the House Labor Committee, and we're advocating for its passage by the full House toward the middle of May. While I'm on the phone, I'd also like to go on the record supporting S550 that I'm talking about now, S808, S858, and S272. Thank you to this committee and all the bill's Senate sponsors for your work.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions for Benjamin? It appears not. Have a good evening, Benjamin.
You too. Thank you.
Next testifying is Steve Brown from the ACLU of Rhode Island. Good evening, Stephen. Welcome to the Senate Labor.
Thank you again, Chair, members of the committee. Stephen Brown, ACLU of Rhode Island, here also to express our organization's support for this bill. I really can't add to the, I think, compelling testimony that you've heard from others already. I would just say and emphasize that by passing this bill, you'll be removing a powerful source of employer intimidation that deters some individuals from reporting serious violations of criminal laws and labor laws, and so we hope it will get your favorable consideration. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee members? It appears not. Thank you for your testimony. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Last, we have Michael Holmes from the Carpenters Union. Good afternoon, Michael. I'm sorry. Good evening, Michael, and welcome to Senate Labor.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
We're ready for your testimony.
Thank you very much. And really, thank you all. Good evening, Senators. And thank you for your consideration of Bill S0550, the Whistleblowers Protection Act. My name is Michael Holmes, and I represent well over 1,500 union carpenters that make up the Carpenters Union of Local 330. And I spent my entire life in the field of union labor. And unfortunately, over the years, systems and procedures, they've been established by unscrupulous contractors to circumvent the prevailing rate. They're misclassifying workers and exploiting the men and women just looking to provide for their families. Contractors who promote these exploits hurt not only one worker, they hurt all workers, really. While that alone should be enough to up the fight, we should consider that these games actually hurt the taxpayers, all the taxpayers of Rhode Island as well. We all suffer in this. That is why today I stand up and urge you all to vote in favor of this bill. Those of us in the construction industry, we understand how complicated the systematic games are that contractors play. They put the Department of Labor and Training and the Attorney General's office in a bind, poring over documents for hours, going through paperwork, getting affidavits of those affected, all worried while the clock's going to strike and the perpetrator disappears. While we understand it, we refuse to accept it. This needs change. We need added regulations. The DLT is responsible for a myriad of responsibilities when it comes to issues in the workplace. We need to provide them added resources to help make their job easier. The Attorney General has continued to do a fantastic job working with us and working for the people, but I think his office needs help too. This bill will assist both in performing their functions. Adding an extra layers of protection for workers, for applicants, prospective employees, even independent contractors, protect those individuals from further punishment. They help maintain fairness in an industry full of illegal and immoral acts. Workers, let's really call it what it is, the victims, should be able to come forward to provide a first-hand account of wrongdoing. If we can't protect an applicant from providing key eyewitness accounts of criminal activity, how are we ever going to level the playing field? How can we expect workers to come forward if the threat of ICE involvement is hung over their heads? We can't expect a constant presence by the DLT in all workplaces. It's not possible. But we can empower the workers, new and old, to come forward without the fear of retribution. So to summarize, Senators, this country, this state, was built by the middle working class. It's high time that we support them with legislation that protects them, the workers, for attempting to right the wrongs in the workplace. I ask you again to pass S0550 out of committee to be passed by the full Senate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from our committee members? Being none, have a good evening, Michael.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
That concludes the testimony on Senate Bill 808, 837, 272, 431, 437, and 550. A motion in his order to hold.
So moved.
Senator Lombardo makes a motion
Second.
to hold, seconded by Senator Cisnowski. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Chacon,
Yes.
Senator De La Cruz,
Yes.
Senator Golden,
Yes.
Senator Lombardo,
Yes.
Senator Picard,
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
It's passed. 6.
6 in favor, none opposed, and the motion to hold is in order. With that, is a motion in order to adjourn this evening's session, made by Senator Cisnowski, seconded by Senator De La Cruz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, and have a good evening on Cinco de Mayo.
Thank you, Senator.
All right.